Terima kasih Rocky yang telah cuba bercakap dalam bahasa nasional, bahasa kebangsaan, bahasa Melayu. Tapi it didn't last for very long. He reverted to his natural language, not national language, natural language. And I'd like to thank you and thank Rocky and all the bums for inviting me today. I'm here because some people think that I ought to be here because of maybe the number of hits I had obtained over the last 1 year. I started blogging on May the 1st last year, and by May the 1st this year, I had almost reached 19 million hits. I think that is something of a record in Malaysia, and I suppose because of that, people think I'm qualified to join the illustrious bunks. Well, I turned to blogging for obvious reasons. I was the Prime Minister for 22 years, and I had my share of knocks from the bloggers. I wasn't liberal at all. I wanted to shut them down, but there was no way we could stop the bloggers. So it is natural that if you cannot fight them, you join them. So here I am, having joined the bloggers. When I stepped down, I really thought that there would be a kind of father figure, consultant to the government, that if they have some problems which might benefit from my experience, they would ask me. I imagine that our relations with my ministers whom I appointed, would be very good, that off and on we would have social get-togethers and talk about good old times. That was what I thought when I stepped down. If I had known, perhaps I wouldn't have stepped down if I had known what would happen to me. When I stepped down, I found that I was treated something like a pariah. As far as the government is concerned, as far as the leader of the government is concerned, I was cut off completely from the government, the members of the government, even though most of them were appointed by me, even though the Prime Minister himself was my nominee, and he became Prime Minister not because of something fantastic about him, but because in our system, the Prime Minister chooses his successor, and the country is sort of acquiesced, that accepted, that was the way the leadership should succeed itself. In a way, this is a very good thing, because you see how smooth is the transition from one government to another, from one Prime Minister to another. It is not so in most other countries. I'm quite sure as bloggers, you read a lot about the news regarding what happens in other countries whenever there is a need for one person to succeed the leader of the country. Usually there would even be bloodshed. But in Malaysia, there has been no bloodshed. The Tunku stepped down and Tun Razak succeeded him. Tun Razak passed away, and Hussein, his deputy, succeeded him. Hussein decided to retire early, and I succeeded him. And when I retired, or rather stepped down in 2003, Dato' Abdullah Ahmad Badawi succeeded me because he was the so-called anointed successor. And so the transition was very smooth. This is a very good thing for a country. One would have thought that there would be some continuity. One would have thought that the successor would feel slightly grateful, if not very grateful, at least slightly grateful to the predecessor who had actually been instrumental in appointing him, in giving him the job. But strangely, the moment the new Prime Minister took over, he seems to think that the one thing that he needs to do was to erase the existence of the previous Prime Minister who appointed him. And so it was that I was cut off from the press. I was not allowed. Nothing I said should be printed in the press. Initially I was allowed, but when I kept talking about APs and all that, they decided that this was not healthy for them. So I was not allowed to, reporters were not allowed to interview me, and the sub-editors were not allowed to print anything that I said or I did. In Malaysia, usually censorship is something that the media itself carries out. You don't have to tell them, look, don't do this, don't do that. They somehow or other have got this ability to gauge what is it that the leadership want. So during my time, you may have noticed that there was a lot of praise for me. It was almost as if nothing I did was wrong. Of course, there are the other people who are not so keen to praise me. Some newspapers, particularly the vernacular newspapers and those which are controlled by political parties, they were quite critical. But the mainstream media, in particular the Straits Times and the Utusan, they sort of second-guess you as to what is it that you want to be printed in their papers, and they did it. Sometimes they were wrong, of course, and I had to behave according to their assessment of what I wanted.